of a vehicle. The circle is offset from the corridor center a half a vehicle length aft and basically right on center line.
Copy all, and that's a good report.
This is Mission Control Houston. Good morning. Thank you for joining us here today on Memorial Day, May 25th, 2020. You're getting a live look from the International Space Station, looking down at the HTV-9 cargo vehicle. The space station and HTV flying just about 259 statute miles over the Arabian Sea on an orbital daytime. HTV has just departed the 250-meter hold point and crossed what's known as the keep-out sphere. This is a point about 200 meters away from the International Space Station that gives Chris Cassidy aboard the International Space Station, the NASA astronaut aboard the ISS, the ability to issue an abort command if communications with Mission Control Houston has been lost. HTV has been right on track for its 5-day rendezvous to the International Space Station, flying through the milestones and heading towards an on-time capture by Chris Cassidy with the space station robotic arm at about 7:15 a.m. Central Time. This comes just 5 days after launching from the Yoshinobu Launch Complex in Tanegashima, an island just south of the main island of Japan. This was just about 5 days ago at 12:31 p.m. Central Time, May 20th, 2:31 a.m. Japan time on May 21st. HTV-9, known as Kunotari, or White Stork, lifted off again at 12:31 p.m. Central Time, May 20th, 2:31 a.m. Japan time on May 21st, on top of an H-2B rocket. Lifting off right on time was 4 tons of cargo on board. This includes scientific experiments, spare water, spare nitrogen, many parts and hardware that are meant for the International Space Station, as well as research. Very importantly, in the unpressurized component of HTV launching just 5 days ago, are 6 new lithium-ion batteries and associated adapter plates that are meant to complete the upgrades of batteries on the outside of the International Space Station. There are 8 power channels on board the International Space Station, 6 of which have already been upgraded completely with lithium-ion batteries. There's one section of the space station's truss segment called the S6 truss. This is the farthest point on the starboard side of the International Space Station. These 6 lithium-ion batteries meant to complete the upgrades on the 2 power channels on the S6 truss.
Separation of the first and second pairs of SLBs.
HTV made its 9-minute ascent into orbit, and from there has been completing its milestones right on track. Back to the live view of HTV, now over India. The International Space Station, 259 statute miles. HTV making its approach, again crossing the 200-meter keep-out sphere. Now 235 meters from the International Space Station and closing at a rate of about 0.16 meters per second. HTV-9 is the final flight of this model of HTV. HTV will then be upgraded to what's known as the HTV-X with full docking capabilities. HTV-9 will be berthed to space station and captured by the station's robotic arm. The next generation of HTV spacecraft will have the ability to dock. There's some hardware on HTV that will be tested for those future upgrades, including a Wi-Fi communication system that's being tested on this flight called Wild. Wild will be testing Wi-Fi data transmission through some of the external wireless ports on the outside of the International Space Station. It'll be used to transmit to the future HTV-X vehicle. HTV 118 meters and closing. Monitoring from the inside of the International Space Station is Expedition 62 Commander Chris Cassidy. He's working side by side with Ivan Wagner from Roscosmos, monitoring the HTV approach. It'll be Cassidy at the controls of the space station's robotic arm once HTV arrives at its capture point, just about 10 or 12 meters away from the International Space Station. It'll be him at the controls of the station's robotic arm to move in and capture the vehicle. After Cassidy uses this maneuver to capture HTV, he'll hand over the controls of the station's Canadarm 2 to robotics controllers here on the ground. They'll take control of the station's robotic arm and maneuver HTV into its berthing position on the nadir port or the Earth-facing side of Node 2, the Harmony module. This is the view that Cassidy and Wagner are watching as we speak. This view provides telemetry, and now that HTV is inside the keep-out sphere, Cassidy and Wagner have the ability to issue an abort of HTV's approach if communications with the International Space Station has been lost with the International Space Station Flight Control Room. International Space Station flight control teams working in tandem with HTV flight control teams over in Tsukuba, Japan. From here in Mission Control Houston in the White Flight Control Room, teams are led by Flight Director Marcos Flores. He's sitting next to Capcom Leslie Ringo. It'll be her voice that you hear from Mission Control Houston up to the crew aboard the International Space Station. Jessica Doy is the visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control Houston, working in tandem with HTV Flight Control over in Tsukuba, Japan. Joint operations between HTV flight control teams and International Space Station flight control teams tracking HTV's flight right on track for a capture at 7:15 a.m. Central Time, 8:15 a.m. Eastern.
Houston Station with a Block Bravo coming through 100 meters. The light is within the corner of the vehicle, matches the outline in both monitors. The light is in the circle, and the circle is offset from the corridor center about a quarter of a vehicle length aft and a third of a vehicle width to the starboard. And that matches both monitor 1 and monitor 3.
Copy for both monitors, and that is what we are expecting. Good words.
International Space Station Commander Chris Cassidy reporting good telemetry from HTV as it crosses the 100-meter point, now just 90 meters away from station, making its approach at about 0.1 meters per second. Leslie Ringo, the Capcom here in Mission Control Houston, confirming a good readout. HTV's right on track for a capture, 7:15 a.m. Central Time. HTV and the International Space Station flying 261 statute miles over the northern border of China. You're getting a live look at the inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room. We're in the White Flight Control Room today, still handing over the flight control rooms here in Mission Control Houston between the shifts of International Space Station flight control teams as we make our way continuing space station operations through the COVID-19 pandemic. We're in a short handover of the communications from the International Space Station. Losing audio and video, but should be regaining very shortly. This is pretty standard as the International Space Station and HTV fly around the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour, handing off from some of the geostationary satellites that provide communication, both video and audio, from the International Space Station. These TDRS satellites in geosynchronous orbit to about 23,000 miles away from the International Space Station, regaining some high-definition video and audio from the International Space Station. HTV still making a good approach towards the International Space Station, heading towards a 30-meter hold point, crossing 80 meters at this point, still holding at a good rate of 0.1 meters per second. Space Station and HTV now over the southern border of Mongolia. This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at the telemetry that Chris Cassidy aboard the International Space Station and Yvonne Wagner are watching as they monitor HTV's approach. Everything's still on track. You can see on the right side, towards the bottom, there's a column there called VV to ISS. Look at the navigation line. That's the approximate distance in meters of HTV from the International Space Station, 63 meters and closing. Nearly 5,000 pounds of pressurized cargo, fresh food, supplies, and science hardware inside HTV. About 3,000 pounds of cargo is in the unpressurized section of HTV. That's towards, if you're looking at the structure of the HTV vehicle, towards the middle there. Inside is the HTV external pallet. That pallet is loaded with 6 lithium-ion batteries and associated adapter plates that'll be used to complete the battery upgrades aboard the International Space Station on the starboard 6 truss. There's 8 power channels associated with each of the 4 trusses, S4, S6, P4, and P6, that contain the integrated electronics assembly for batteries to be mounted and store power that's collected from the station's solar arrays. Of the 8 power channels on the International Space Station, 6 have been upgraded completely with new lithium-ion batteries. HTV-9 delivering the final set of lithium-ion batteries. HTV loaded with spare water and nitrogen, all to resupply the consumables aboard the International Space Station. Also some research on board. One in particular is an experiment called Round Robin. Round Robin is part of the JAXA's ELF, or electro-levitation furnace. This experiment will be mounted inside the International Space Station with the ability to levitate different materials for testing in different thermal environments. Many of the materials being carried up by HTV are to help with future space exploration. Some of the materials that are inside HTV now will be used to test some materials that can be used for turbine blade materials, spacecraft external shells, and a glass-forming alloy. HTV is still making a good approach towards the International Space Station, 47 meters and closing. The views you'll see from the International Space Station towards HTV are about to get just a little bit darker as we cross over the terminator line into an orbital nighttime. Space Station and HTV, 263 statute miles. About to cross over the terminator line into orbital darkness just off the eastern coast of Siberia.
Houston Station with a Block Bravo coming through 43 meters. Everything seems to be converging nicely. The light is within the quarter. The vehicle size matches the outline. The light is in the circle, and the circle is only slightly starboard and slightly aft of the crosshairs. And good report on both monitor 1 and 3.
Great words.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're starting to see the Earth get a little bit darker behind HTV as we cross into an orbital nighttime. HTV now just a little bit, just about 35 meters from the International Space Station. We're heading right on track towards that 30-meter hold point. That's about 100 feet from the International Space Station. The space station and HTV make a complete orbit around the Earth every 90 minutes. At about the 30-meter hold point, we'll continue to hold at that point through the duration of orbital nighttime, departing just before sunrise, allowing HTV to arrive in its capture point about 10 or 12 or so meters away from the International Space Station during an orbital daytime. HTV slowing down as we arrive towards that 30-meter hold point, now awaiting confirmation of a good hold.
Station Houston and 2 confirmed the 30-meter hold and then set up and brief for the capture per step 8 in 1.102.
Okay, Houston, step 8's in work.
This is Mission Control Houston. From the ground here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, confirming a good 30-meter hold. HTV will remain in this position through the orbital nighttime, so for just about 40 or 45 minutes. You're getting a view from the workstation that astronaut Chris Cassidy and Roscosmos cosmonaut Ivan Wagner are taking a look at as they monitor the approach of HTV towards the International Space Station, seeing those final glimpses of sunlight as HTV and International Space Station cross completely into darkness, 263 statute miles over the North Pacific Ocean. This is Mission Control Houston. You're seeing the cameras on the outside of the International Space Station reconfiguring. And the bottom of the screen there, you see the station's Canadarm2 poised, ready to capture the HTV as it departs the 30-meter hold point and heads towards that capture position about 10 or 12 meters away. HTV still holding at the 30-meter mark. There'll be a go, no-go poll from the team led here in Mission Control Houston, working with international flight control teams, including HTV Flight Control in Tsukuba, Japan, making sure everything is good for that final maneuver of HTV towards its capture position. HTV's arrival comes at the perfect time, arriving with critical consumable supplies, spare batteries to upgrade the outside of the International Space Station, and of course many research experiments ahead of a new crew launching to the International Space Station from American shores for the first time in 9 years. Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley will be launching on top of the SpaceX Crew Dragon vehicle from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on the Demo 2 mission. This will come just 2 days from now, May 27th, 2020. The duo are set to lift off from the Kennedy Space Center at 4:33 p.m. Central Time. We'll be live for the pre-launch coverage for about 4 hours even a little bit before that, 4.5 hours before launch. Make sure you tune in to our live coverage on NASA TV in tandem with SpaceX to cover the mission. Everything that's led up to this point to launch Crew once again from the United States. Again, that's May 27th, 2024, 4:33 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:33 p.m. Central Time. Everything's still on track from the HTV side of things. Again, we're continuing to hold 30 meters, just about 100 feet from the International Space Station. Everything's right on track for the scheduled capture time, just about an hour from now, 7:15 a.m. Central Time, 8:15 a.m. Eastern. This is Mission Control Houston. If you are just tuning in, the HTV cargo vehicle, HTV-9, holding at 30 meters away from the International Space Station. In just a few minutes, led from here in Mission Control Houston by Flight Director Marcos Flores, flight control teams from around the globe will conduct a go, no-go poll to depart the 30-meter hold point. Departure of that 30-meter hold is scheduled just about 20 minutes from now. Again, all the flight control teams will verify that everything is go and everything has been checked out to make sure that HTV can safely depart the 30-meter hold point and head towards the capture position.
Is complete. The crew is ready for HTV approach to the capture point.
And we copy.
You heard good words from the International Space Station. That was NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, Space Station Commander of Expedition 62. And the lead for HTV's rendezvous at the controls of the station's robotic arm, confirming the station crew's ready for HTV to depart that 30-meter hold point, head towards the capture position. It'll be Cassidy himself at the controls of the station's robotic arm. He'll be maneuvering the robotic arm, heading in to capture the HTV vehicle, coming in at a total of about 12 tons. Again, we have good confirmation from the International Space Station crew to depart the 30-meter hold point, still conducting that go, no-go poll from here in Mission Control Houston. The next milestone you'll hear is the Capcom here in Mission Control Houston. Leslie Ringo read out to the crew of a good no-go, no-go for that 30-meter depart, scheduled just about 20 minutes from now. This is Mission Control Houston. HTV still holding at 30 meters. Inside about 4 tons total of cargo, including the pressurized section containing water resupply tanks, research experiments, and nitrogen tanks. In the unpressurized compartment is a pallet full of lithium-ion batteries and associated adapter plates that will be used to upgrade the station's power configuration. Of the 8 channels of the 8 power channels on board station, 6 have been upgraded with lithium-ion batteries. This pallet carried on HTV-9 will be used to upgrade the final 2 power channels of the International Space Station. This is the final flight of a berthing HTV. The next generation of HTV spacecraft will be the HTV-X, with the ability to dock to the International Space Station, heading into the international docking adapters that are located on the forward end of the International Space Station. Some hardware aboard HTV-9 is being tested now to verify that next generation technology, including an experiment called WILD. Some of the same hardware will be used on HTV-X. WILD is a wireless interface. It will be testing Wi-Fi and data transmission to some of the external wireless ports that are outside the International Space Station, testing that Wi-Fi connection, making sure that telemetry and data has a good transmission using that technology. This is Mission Control Houston. HTV still holding steady, about 30 meters away from the International Space Station. This is the final hold point before it goes into its capture position. What you're seeing now is the view of the crew aboard the International Space Station. Chris Cassidy, the International Space Station commander, and Yvonne Wagner monitoring telemetry from the International Space Station's Cuckoo. This is a workstation that provides telemetry of visiting vehicles as they approach the International Space Station. The crew reported a good hold and is ready for HTV to depart the 30-meter hold. International Space Station Flight Director Marcos Flores still holding a go, no-go poll from flight control centers across the globe, making sure everything's good for HTV to depart that 30 meters. Departure scheduled just about 10 minutes from now. Right before an orbital sunrise, we may even see a little bit of light reflecting off of HTV's solar panels as it departs 30 meters and heads towards that capture position. Capture's still right on track, 7:15 a.m. Central Time, 8:15 a.m. Eastern.
Station Houston and 2, HTV is ready to proceed to the capture point. Expect approach to resume shortly.
We copy.
This is Mission Control Houston and right on track. Flight control teams across the globe are go to depart the 30-meter hold point. From this view that you're seeing now on the bottom right column of telemetry, you see range and range rate. Once you see that start to increase, it'll be the way to tell that HTV is moving slowly but surely towards its capture position. Again, flight control teams and the crew aboard the International Space Station are go to depart that 30-meter hold point. We'll start seeing HTV make its way a little bit closer to the International Space Station on the final approach towards the capture position. It'll be about 10 or 12 meters away from the International Space Station. Right now, station and HTV flying in sync, 263 statute miles over the middle of the Pacific Ocean in an orbital nighttime. Should expect a sunrise and maybe even some sun reflecting off of HTV here in about 8 to 10 minutes.
Station Houston and 2, HTV has begun approach from 30 meters. Monitor per step 9 and 1.102.
Step 9 in work.
This is Mission Control Houston. HTV has resumed its approach towards the International Space Station, heading towards its capture position. You notice the rate is much slower than it was approaching the 30-meter hold point. Now crawling at about 0.02 meters per second. HTV 28 meters and closing. A good rate, right on track to arrive at its capture position a little less than 20 minutes from now. And puts us right on the timeline for the expected 7:15 a.m. Central Time capture. Now heading into an orbital daytime. Space station and HTV 266 statute miles over the South Pacific Ocean. Sun beginning to rise as HTV makes its way from 30 meters towards its capture position.
Houston Station with a Block Bravo update coming through 25 meters on the nav range. The light is within the corridor. The vehicle size matches the outline. The light is inside the circle, and the circle is at the crosshairs on both monitors, looking very nice.
Copy all, and that is a perfect report.
HTV closing in on 20 meters from the International Space Station. Just about halfway on its trip from the 30-meter hold point towards its capture position. Everything right on the timeline, heading towards a capture arrival, or a capture point arrival, about 13 minutes from now. An estimated capture time of 7:15 a.m. Central Time, 8:15 a.m. Eastern. Now in a handover of some of the audio and visual communications and telemetry and data from the International Space Station. This is a look of the inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Teams here monitoring the approach of HTV and of course the systems and the crew aboard the International Space Station. Teams here working in tandem with HTV Flight Control over in Tsukuba, Japan. This team been watching over the HTV vehicle since it launched just 5 days ago and staffing its 5-day rendezvous. Of course, all wearing masks as a protective measure against COVID-19 as they continue to monitor HTV's approach. A flight right on the timeline. Again, heading for a capture at 7:15 a.m. Central Time. That'll be the final time HTV is captured aboard the International Space Station. Next generation of HTV vehicles upgraded for docking. That'll be the HTV-X vehicle. Onboard HTV-9, though, is an experiment called WILD. It'll be testing the wireless communication of the future generation of HTV towards the International Space Station, testing a Wi-Fi connection to the external wireless capability of Space Station, transmitting data and making sure that connection is good for that next generation of HTV spacecraft. This is a live view of HTV, still heading towards that capture position, slowly but surely, 16 meters and closing. Space Station and HTV, just about 270 statute miles right over the southern end of the Andes mountain chain.
Station Block Bravo coming through 15 meters on the nav range. The lights within the quarter. The vehicle the vehicle size matches the outline. The light is inside the circle, and the circle is on the crosshairs. All looking good.
Copy, another perfect report at 15 meters.
A great view of HTV as it crosses over the southern tip of South America, heading towards the east coast and into an orbital daytime over the South Atlantic Ocean. In view is the HTV about 14 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in to its capture position, scheduled just about 8 minutes from now. In view is the Japanese experiment module and the Japanese exposed facility, and of course the Japanese HTV, heading towards the Canadian robotic arm aboard the International Space Station. HTV poised a little under 12 meters from station, slowing down but still making its way towards the capture position. Just a few minutes from now. HTV continuing to slow down just a little more than 10 meters from station now. Right on track for an on-time arrival at the capture position. No changes to the capture time so far, still tracking 7:15 a.m. Central Time, 8:15 a.m. Eastern. Station and HTV flying 270 statute miles in an orbital daytime over the South Atlantic Ocean. Just minutes away from the capture point arrival of HTV, right in front of the station's robotic arm. We're in a short handover now, losing video and audio temporarily from the International Space Station. Should be regaining that shortly. Again, the next milestone will be the arrival of HTV at its capture position. Last we saw was a little under 10 meters from station. Once we get a good confirmed hold at that capture point, the next milestone will be another go, no-go poll to make sure everything is set from the flight control teams here in the room, and of course internationally, before Chris Cassidy aboard the International Space Station takes control of the station's robotic arm, assisted by Ivan Wagner of Roscosmos. He'll take control of the robotic arm and maneuver the arm towards the capture interface that's mounted on the outside of HTV for a good capture. Once a hard capture is confirmed of the 12-ton vehicle, Cassidy will hand over control of the station's robotic arm to robotics officers. It'll take some time for that robotic arm to maneuver the 12-ton vehicle over to its berthing port. This port located on the nadir or the Earth-facing side of the Harmony module that's at the forward end of the space station. It'll take some time to maneuver that and have all 4 latches go and all 16 bolts in place for a firm berth of HTV to the International Space Station. That all coming up very soon. First, the arrival of HTV at the capture position.
Station Houston and 2, confirm capture point hold per step 10 in 1.102.
Step 10 in work. Houston Station, the capture point is confirmed. The grapple fixture remains within the capsule volume on both camera views.
And we copy.
Crew confirming a good hold of HTV 9.2 meters from the International Space Station. This is a look at the inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room, led by Flight Director Marcos Flores. Leslie Ringo as the Capcom, the voice you're hearing from here in Mission Control Houston. To the crew, responding is Chris Cassidy, International Space Station Commander. Now that HTV has arrived at its capture point, holding steady, teams here will conduct a go, no-go poll, making sure that everything is looking good before Cassidy takes control of the robotic arm and maneuvers it for a capture of HTV. Everything's still on track for a capture on time today. The schedule has us at 7:15 a.m. Central Time for that capture. Again, 4 tons total of cargo inside HTV. Within the pressurized volume is fresh food, water resupply, and nitrogen resupply, all to restock the International Space Station crew for food and, of course, the consumables aboard the International Space Station. In addition is the unpressurized volume of lithium-ion batteries and adapter plates stacked on an external pallet that'll be removed robotically from HTV once it has been berthed to the International Space Station. There's a pallet now that was delivered on HTV-8, mounted robotically on the outside of the International Space Station. It's loaded with old nickel hydrogen batteries. There'll be a robotic swap of the new pallet full of lithium-ion batteries. Swapping that pallet for the old pallet. Old pallet will be put back into HTV for disposal of the old nickel hydrogen batteries. Those lithium-ion batteries will be mounted outside the International Space Station, ready for installation through spacewalks on the starboard 6 truss of the International Space Station, completing the upgrades of the final 2 power channels of the International Space Station. And here it is. We're getting those views back from the TDRS satellites, the tracking and data relay satellites that provide us this high-definition view from the International Space Station. There it is, HTV-9 holding at its capture position, 9.2 meters away from the International Space Station. You see the robotic arm there to the bottom left of your screen. HTV's flight is done, now just holding at the capture position. The rest of the work to be done by Chris Cassidy aboard the International Space Station.
Step is enabled. Prepare for capture for step 11 in 1.102.
11 in work.
There you have it, Capcom Leslie Ringo confirming to put forward the work of configuring the arm. Chris Cassidy performing that work now, aided by Yvonne Wagner of Roscosmos.
The LED status matches the procedure. The capture prep confirmed, and the crew is ready for the HTV capture.
Copy. Stand by for capture.
This is Mission Control Houston. You heard good words from the crew aboard the International Space Station. Their view of HTV and all the telemetry they're receiving has them go. Now conducting a go-no-go poll here in Mission Control Houston. International teams now conducting a go-no-go poll to depart to have Chris Cassidy maneuver for capture.
Station Houston and 2, Chris, you are go for HTV capture sequence. Execute step 4 in robotics procedure 1.110 HTV capture and begin monitoring the backaway cue card.
Copy, go for capture sequence step 4 and work.
There you have it. International Space Station flight control teams from across the globe go for capture of HTV this morning, right on time. Cassidy now configuring the arm for capture. From this view, you can see it move towards the HTV. Cassidy still configuring that arm. HTV and International Space Station approaching the southwestern coast of Africa now. This is Mission Control Houston. If you're just tuning in, HTV holding steady at its capture position, 9.2 meters from the station. Chris Cassidy aboard the International Space Station, NASA astronaut and International Space Station commander, aided by Ivan Wagner of Roscosmos, configuring the station's robotic arm that you see poised to the bottom left of your screen for capture of HTV-9 this morning. Estimated time of capture is about 7:15 a.m. Central Time. Starting to see some movement of the robotic arm. HTV configured for free drift. Robotic arm closing into HTV about 4 meters away. Heading in for an early capture of HTV today. Arm is 3 meters away. HTV now confirmed in free drift. Arm is 2 meters away. Stand by for contact. One meter from capture. Arm is over the pin. Good trigger. Snare is closed. Standing by for confirmation of capture. And we have capture confirmed. 7:13 a.m. Central Time. HTV and the International Space Station were 260 miles.
Post-capture reconfiguration. It was an honor for Expedition 63 to be part of the final HTV mission, a vehicle that has contributed so greatly to the International Space Station program. Congratulations to our friends and colleagues in Scuba.
And Chris and Ivan, congratulations on an excellent job capturing Kanatori. From the first arrival of JAXA's HTV cargo ship on September 17, 2009, this invaluable resource from our Japanese partners has delivered vital supplies, experiments, and new batteries to extend the life of the station. Today's arrival of the final in the series of this genre of HTV vehicles marks a transition to a new and even more capable vehicle in the HTV-X, which will soon make its debut. We congratulate our Japanese colleagues for a magnificent chapter in space station history and wish them all the best in the next phase of resupplying the International Space Station in the years ahead. Chris and Ivan, please stand by one as I hand the comm over to Nemo.
Chris, Ivan, thank you, spasiba, and arigato for the great work. I'd like to echo Leslie's words and relay the message from Tsukuba in Japanese. クリス、イヴァン、キャプチャーしてくれてありがとう。コウノトリに関わったすべてのメンバーが今日無事に9号機が ISS に到着したことを大変喜んでいます。初号機から10年以上にわたりコウノトリの運用を支えてくれた宇宙飛行士、ヒューストンの管制官、国際パートナーの皆様全員に心より感謝申し上げます。コウノトリ9号機ではバッテリーなどのシステム機器、各国の実験機器や生鮮食品を輸送しています。また ISS への最終接近時には将来の自動ドッキング実証に向けてワイルドミッションを行い、コウノトリから撮影した ISS の画像データを伝送することに成功しました。コウノトリとしては9号機がラストフライトですが、さらに能力を向上した次世代の宇宙船 HTV-X を開発しているので楽しみにしていてください。これからもより一層我々の絆が深まっていくことを期待しています。ありがとう。Thank you again for your great work, Chris and Ivan.
ありがとう。
This is Mission Control Houston. HTV-9's flight to the International Space Station is complete. Capture was confirmed at 7:13 a.m. Central Time, 8:13 a.m. Eastern. The station and HTV were 260 statute miles over Tanzania in Africa. You heard congratulatory words from Chris Cassidy as well as Leslie Ringo, the Capcom here in Mission Control Houston. This is the final flight of HTV to be captured by the station's robotic arm. The next generation of HTV will dock to the International Space Station. You also heard some congratulatory words in Japanese from Norishige Kanai here in Mission Control Houston, a veteran JAXA astronaut that flew to the station on Expedition 5455 back in 2017-2018. With HTV's capture now complete, the 4 tons of cargo will be maneuvered to its berthing position on the nadir-facing side. That's the Earth-facing side of Harmony. Control of the robotic arm has been handed over from Chris Cassidy, who used the station's robotic arm to capture HTV today at 7:13 a.m. Central. Robotics officers on the ground will work together to maneuver HTV into its berthing port. We'll bring you some live coverage of berthing and the activities there to officially mate HTV to the International Space Station via berthing for the final time. Again, the next generation of HTV spacecraft will dock. You can tune in at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern to tune in to our coverage as we take you through the installation of HTV to space station for the last time. HTV is delivering some vital cargo to the International Space Station. Importantly is the upgrades of batteries to the outside of the International Space Station, as well as almost 5,000 pounds of cargo, including some fresh food for the crew, some resupply of station consumables, and some critical hardware. This comes right before the launch of humans from American soil for the first time in 9 years on the SpaceX Demo 2 mission. You can tune in on Wednesday, May 27th, just 2 days from now, for our live coverage of that historic event. We'll be live on NASA TV at 11:15 a.m. Central Time, 12:15 p.m. Eastern. Launch scheduled for 3:33 p.m. Central, 4:33 p.m. Eastern. That'll wrap up our coverage of HTV-9's flight to the International Space Station. This is Mission Control Houston.